Kakadosh Boker or Beki'im halacha 6, Siman Kuf Samech 160, page 134. This is day 53. We are on halacha he. Okay, halacha 5. Okay, says the halacha. We're talking about if someone places a bottle of wine or beer into a container of cold water in order to cool the beverage. So the water is now disqualified for the mitzvah of netilat yadayim, and it's considered used water. Meaning like this, I basically wanted, sometimes they do this on, I think it's called like a cold bath or something. For example, you go to a restaurant or sometimes you go to the parks. Usually they do it in the parks. They don't just put ice and then they put the beverages in the ice. Usually they'll add water also to the ice, and then it makes it like an ice bath. So therefore, it's actually even colder than just with ice by itself, right? So what they do is they do that many times, and then you go and okay, fine, I want a Coke. So you come, you put your hand in, and it's freezing cold, the water with the ice. You put your hand in, you get the can of whatever it is that you want, and now you're. So now the question is, can I use that water, which you just used to cool down the drinks? Can I use that water for netilat yadayim? So here it's brought down that it's disqualified. It's considered used water. If the beverage is already cool and someone placed the water in the bottle just in order to prevent it from becoming warm, then the water is still fit for the mitzvah. Meaning, if it was regular cans and I put it in to cool it down, to make it cold, that it's disqualified. But if it's already cool and I just don't want it to become warm, so then that's okay. Therefore, if someone heated up a baby's bottle and then placed it into a container of water in order to cool it down, right? So the water is now disqualified for the mitzvah. If a bottle is warm and someone placed it in warm water so that it should remain warm, so then it's still fit for the mitzvah. Meaning, if you didn't really do something substantial, so then the water is not considered used. But if not, so sometimes, for example, that happens. You come, you take there's a hot baby bottle, thing. Now you want to cool it down. How are you going to cool it down? So you put it in cold water. You dip it in cold water. Now that it's going to be in cold water, it's going to cool down. That you just disqualified it. But if it's already warm and you put it in warm water, you can ask, well, what are you doing that? No, I just don't want it to become cold. So then that, yes, because again, it's not a substantial usage in order to disqualify the water. Okay.
Putting the hand inside doesn't disqualify.
If it's cooling down or it's going to warm up, it disqualifies the status of the water. But if you're just because now it has a usage, but if the usage is just to maintain the status quo, whether you're putting it in cold water to keep it cool or you're putting it in hot water to keep it warm, that means you're maintaining the status quo, so that's not considered a substantial use, and therefore it's going to be kosher for netilat yadayim. Okay, that's a good thing that I think that we could just take out from this. Okay, fine. Halacha number vav 6. If water is used to rinse dairy utensils, it is disqualified for the mitzvah netilat yadayim. Dirty utensils, sorry. So therefore, it's going to be disqualified for the mitzvah netilat yadayim. Why? You just washed dishes, washing dishes. That's it. There's nothing to talk about. Even if the utensils are new and it's only dusty. Somebody said, it wasn't like a mamasha you've got, like mamasha, but it's dusty. Also, the water used to rinse them is disqualified. If the utensils have already been clean and now just giving an extra rinse, so then again, it's not disqualified since nothing was really accomplished. Again, the same thing, meaning that it has to be a substantial usage in order for to disqualify the netilat yadayim. It can't just be that it's already clean and I'm just putting it inside and taking it out. That's it. No, 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 no. If it's mamasha, you clean it, even if it's just like dust or whatever. That's it. Okay, halacha number 7. Likewise, if someone rinsed fruit and vegetables, right? The used water is disqualified for the mitzvah. If the fruits were already clean, so then again, it's going to be still fitting for the mitzvah, just as the rules regarding the utensils, right, in the water. If someone soaks vegetables in water just to prevent them from wilting, the water does become used and is disqualified. So this is interesting. That means the first part, again, was like every other part. You're rinsing vegetables, sometimes you've got dirt and this and then that, again, disqualified. If it was just stam already clean and you're just, hygiene or whatever it is, it's not disqualified. But he does say if you're doing it to prevent it from wilting, which means that you're doing it there in order to prevent it from getting bad, from getting rotten, there it is disqualified. So look in the footnote, because obviously here we're going to have to understand what's the difference. I thought that maintaining the status quo was okay. So he says the Yad Ephraim, right, in the footnote 80. The Yad Ephraim, he comes and he explains that when someone soaks vegetables in water, it penetrates into the plant fibers and rejuvenates the tissue, preventing it from molting. Since the water performs an action, so then it's halachically using cold water to warm a bottle of wine, and the water is now considered used. When a bottle of cold beverage is placed in a container of water to keep it cold, the water does nothing to the bottle. it simply just maintains its present status. So Baruch Hashem, exactly what we said. Meaning here, when it's the preventing of the wilting, it went deep inside and it did something. When it does something, that's it. If it was just preventing it from something else happening, that's something okay. But here, it actually is doing something. Okay, next, if someone placed flowers into a vase filled with water to preserve the freshness, it disqualifies for netilat yadayim because, again, you use water. It makes sense. Let's see the next footnote. Dipping vegetables into water momentarily. The Kavachim Sover ruled that if someone dipped vegetables into water to moisten them and remove them immediately afterwards, leaving the water as clean as before, the water is still fit for the mitzvah. It's similar to rinsing clean utensils. Okay, meaning again, you didn't really do anything. You just dipped them momentarily, but you didn't. It's not that you stopped it from wilting. You just dipped it for a few seconds. Okay, 81. The Ben Ish Chai comes and he explained that it's not the same as preserving the coolness of a cold bottle of a beverage by inserting it into water, in which the case the water remains fit for the mitzvah, as explained above. In this case, since the flowers were cut and left out for water for some time, they must have begun to dry up. Placing them in water refreshes and rejuvenates them. Okay. Next halacha, 8. Dipping dough in water. So he says if a baker dips...
Rejuvenation is not good.
No, rejuvenation is not good. Okay, because you're actually doing an action. Okay. Number 8, what about a baker? So if a baker dips his unbaked dough into water as part of the process of preparing bread, the water is disqualified from the mitzvah netilat yadayim. If he dipped it in his hand in the water and then patted the dough on the wet hand, or even if he scooped out a handful, the water is not considered used water and it's fit for the mitzvah. Meaning, as long as he didn't put the dough into the water, it's still fine. The second he puts the dough inside, sometimes this is what we spoke about on Shabbat. Sometimes they do that for donuts and things like that. Right? They come, they'll put it in a hot boiling water to keep the how do you call this? The shape, right? And so many times they'll do that. So that would disqualify it. Okay, the last halacha, which is going to be halacha number 9. He comes and he says, after a baker rinses his hands in basin of water to remove the dough that is stuck to his hands, obviously it's disqualified because you're mamash, you're cleaning your hands from the dough. The poskim ruled that the water is still fit for the mitzvah since the act of rinsing hands does not make it used water. Nevertheless, the halacha follows the stringent opinion, which it only makes sense. Saying you're putting your hands full of dough into water to wash it, that's it, it's disqualified. 82, this is the ruling the Ben Ish Chai, the Mishnah Berurah, the Kavachim Sofer, and the halacha brura. The Pri Megadim added that even if the baker simply just dips his hands into the water, right, to cool them off, the water is disqualified, just like when someone places a warm bottle of wine into the water to cool it off. Now, Zalman explained that the Ramah ruled that water is still fit for mitzvah, since rinsing the hands is not considered to disqualify the water. If the reasoning for disqualifying the used water would be that the water is considered sewage, so then there would be basically disqualify the water. However, following the reasoning offered by Rabbeinu Shimshon, the used water is no longer considered water. The act of performing netilat yadayim is itself an act of rinsing the hands in water. Therefore, the act of rinsing hands cannot change the water status or our conception of it being water. So again, that's where it comes out this machloket, but we are going stringent in this machloket.